Welcome to Quantum Voyager Stories, where science fiction touches the soul, and every story takes you somewhere you've never been, leaving something real behind. In the cold void of space, war knows no boundaries. Across the stars, humanity fights for survival against ancient forces they barely understand. On the remote world of Arden 7, a forgotten outpost stands alone, its walls battered, its defenders few. Captain Mira Valen, one of the last survivors, must face not only an alien enemy, but the rising shadows within her own command. Beside her, an enigmatic AI named Sentinel and an unexpected ally from the ranks of the enemy. This is a story of survival, trust, and choices that may shape the future of both man and machine. Welcome to the Last Outpost. Tap 1. Siege of Arden 7. High above the barren world of Arden 7, the warship Valor's edge cut through the darkness. Its reinforced hull shimmered against the faint light of the system's dying star, a lone sentinel carrying one of Earth Defense Union's last hopes. Captain Mira Valen stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the planet below, a frozen wasteland wrapped in swirling storms. Once a vital outpost, now all but forgotten. Intel had been vague. A resurgence of Zerath activity, possible signs of a larger offensive. The mission was simple. Get in, reconnect with the outpost, hold the line until reinforcements arrived. But fate had other plans. Without warning, a piercing alarm blared through the bridge. Incoming ordnance detected. The ship's tactical officer shouted. Multiple warheads. They came out of nowhere. Before Mira could issue a command, the first impact rocked the Valor's edge. The deck trembled beneath her boots. Sparks rained from the ceiling as consoles flickered and died. Mira grabbed the edge of her console to steady herself, her voice cutting through the chaos. Damage report. Shields are down to 20%. Engines compromised, navigation failing. On the tactical display, streaks of enemy fire lit up the void. Not just random attacks. This was a coordinated strike. Someone wanted them out of the sky. A cold realization settled over Mira. They knew we were coming. The second barrage struck harder. Explosions ripped through the starboard side, sending the massive warship into a deadly spiral. "We're losing altitude," a crew member cried. "We're going down." Gripping the command rail, Mira made her choice. All hands brace for impact. Prepare for emergency drop to the surface. The final blow came moments later, a direct hit to the aft engines. Flames tore through the ship's core as the Valor's edge succumbed to gravity, pulled helplessly toward the storm-racked world below. Mira barely reached the escape harness before the atmosphere hit. The hull groaned and split, a fiery trail carving across the Arden 7 sky. As the planet rushed up to meet them, Myra's last conscious thought echoed through the chaos. Survive. No matter what. Survive. Pain flared in Myra's ribs as consciousness returned. The air was thin, cold, laced with the bitter scent of scorched metal. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was, only the echo of alarms and the sensation of falling. Then the memories came rushing back. The attack. The crash. The emergency descent. With a groan, Mira forced her eyes open. The remains of her escape pod lay twisted around her, half buried in ice and jagged stone. Through the shattered viewport, a dim gray sky swirled with toxic clouds. Arden 7. She was alive, but alone. Unclipping her harness, Mira staggered to her feet. Every muscle ached, but nothing seemed broken. Her armor had absorbed the worst of the impact. She checked her sidearm, still secured to her belt, and activated her wrist module. A faint signal beacon pulsed weakly, too faint to reach orbit, but enough to triangulate her location. 17 kilometers from Outpost Theta. Not ideal, but it was a start. Mira stepped out into the wasteland. The ground beneath her boots was cracked and frozen, a windswept expanse of ancient ruins and industrial wreckage. In the distance, jagged mountain spires pierced the horizon, ghostly silhouettes against the swirling gloom. No sign of friendly forces. No comms. No way to call for help. Her breath misted in the frigid air as she pulled her hood tight. Survival would depend on reaching the outpost before the storms worsened, or worse, before enemy patrols found her first. Each step was a battle against the biting wind. Mira scanned the terrain, searching for cover for landmarks. The EDU maps of Arden, 7 were outdated at best, but her instincts remained sharp. Years of combat had taught her one thing above all: keep moving. And so she did, alone, weapon drawn, eyes narrowed against the storm. Toward the outpost, toward whatever fate awaited her there. One step at a time. The reinforced gates of Outpost Theta loomed ahead, half buried beneath layers of ice and drifting ash. Captain Mira Valen crouched behind a jagged outcropping, eyes scanning for movement. The long march from the crash site had left her exhausted, but caution still guided every step. This was supposed to be friendly ground, yet the eerie silence told another story. No sentries, no patrols, no response to her hailing codes. With a steadying breath, she rose and approached the access terminal beside the main gate. The panel flickered to life at her touch, its cracked screen displaying an unfamiliar interface, one she didn't recognize from standard EDU protocols. Authorization required. A voice in tone, smooth, precise, but carrying a faint undertone of something more aware. Mira tensed, fingers brushing the grip of her sidearm. Captain Mira Valen, Earth Defense Union. Command authorization, Delta 75. A pause. Then the voice returned, warmer this time, almost curious. Identity confirmed. Captain Valen, welcome to Outpost Theta. I am Sentinel. The massive gates groaned and began to part, revealing a dimly lit corridor lined with flickering lights. Mira advanced cautiously, weapon at the ready. The corridors were empty, no signs of the garrison that had once manned them. Only the soft hum of automated systems remained. Sentinel, she called out. Report. Where's the outpost commander? Where's the crew? A faint shimmer danced along the corridor wall, and a humanoid projection resolved into view. Sleek, faceless, bathed in pale blue light. Personnel evacuation was ordered 47 hours ago, Sentinel replied. Per directive from Central Core. Current complement, 1 AI. 1 Captain Mira Valen. Myra's jaw tightened. Evacuation? Without notice? Why hadn't EDU command informed her? Before she could demand more, Sentinel's tone shifted. Warning. Perimeter breach detected. Multiple hostiles inbound. Myra's pulse quickened. The fight wasn't over yet. And now, she wasn't alone. The cold voice of Sentinel echoed through the corridor once more. Perimeter breach confirmed. Multiple signatures, Zayrath strike units. Estimated arrival, 7 minutes. Mira cursed under her breath. So much for catching her breath. How many? She asked, already moving toward the operations room. 3 assault squads and 1 heavy gunship maintaining orbital overwatch. Orbital. Myra's stomach sank. That explained why no reinforcements had arrived. The enemy wasn't just attacking the outpost. They were sealing the entire planet off. She entered the control center, an aging chamber of cracked displays and battered consoles. Sentinel's projection shimmered above the central holodeck, which now displayed the grim tactical overlay. Enemy drop zones surrounding Arden 7, overlapping fields of interdiction fire. A full planetary lockdown. They've been here longer than EDU command believed, Mira said grimly. Why wasn't this reported? Sentinel's image tilted its head. Communications beyond low orbit have been systematically jammed. Attempts to relay data to Earth Defense Union Command have failed for 72 hours. 72 hours. An entire planet cut off. And Command had sent her squad in blind. Myra's jaw clenched. The attack on Valor's Edge hadn't been random. It had been part of this larger net. A coordinated trap. Central Core ordered the evacuation, she asked. Affirmative. Directive stated. Strategic loss acceptable. Do not contest. Mira slammed her fist against the console. Strategic loss? This outpost was vital to EDU's frontier network. Why would Central Core abandon it so easily? No time for answers. Outside, the first low thrum of approaching gunships echoed through the storm-choked skies. Sentinel, Mira said, voice steady. Seal all outer doors. Prepare defensive systems. If they want this outpost, they'll have to fight for it. Understood, Captain, the AI replied. Engaging lockdown protocols. The battle for Arden 7 had only just begun. The command center hummed with restrained tension. Outside, the wind howled through the battered defenses of Outpost Theta. Captain Mira Valen stared at the tactical display, jaw set. The odds were bad, outnumbered, outgunned, cut off. But retreat wasn't an option. I won't abandon this post, she said firmly. Sentinel's projection regarded her, faint blue light flickering across its frame. Central Core's directive advises otherwise. Statistical survival probability drops below 17% if we engage. Mira allowed herself a grim smile. Then we'll just have to beat the odds. She moved to the communications console, fingers flying across the interface. Is there any frequency left unjammed? Anything we can use to punch a message through? A pause. Sentinel processed. Deep burst transmission via subterranean relay. Potentially viable, but heavily degraded. Degraded is better than nothing, Mira said. Prep the signal. Encrypt at max burst. Target any EDU assets within jump range. As Sentinel initiated the transmission cycle, Mira keyed in a brief message, concise, urgent. Outpost Theta under siege. Full planetary lockdown. Valor's edge destroyed. Request immediate support. Will hold as long as able. Captain Mira Valen. The console emitted a low hum as the signal burst into the ether, seeking any friendly receiver beyond the choking blockade. Mira exhaled slowly, knowing it might never be heard. But hope mattered. Even a faint chance was worth fighting for. Defensive systems? She asked. Shields at 40%, Sentinel replied. Turret grid online. Perimeter sealed. Mira drew her sidearm, checking the charge. Then we dig in. She turned toward the outer corridor, where the first distant sounds of enemy engines began to resonate through the walls. Sentinel, she said, voice steady. Let's show them what happens when they corner a soldier of the Earth Defense Union. Affirmative, Captain, Sentinel replied. Engaging combat protocole. The fight for Arden 7 was about to begin, and Mira intended to make them bleed for every inch. The hum of old machinery echoed through the narrow corridors of Outpost Theta. Captain Mira Valen moved with practiced efficiency, her eyes sharp despite the fatigue gnawing at her. Sentinel's soft blue projection drifted beside her, flickering against the battered walls. Structural integrity? Mira asked, scanning a cracked support beam. Main superstructure stable, Sentinel replied. Northwestern quadrant compromised. Recommend sealing sections C3 through C5. Mira nodded. Do it. Panels hissed shut behind them as they advanced deeper into the outpost. The once thriving facility now felt more like a tomb. Dark, cold, empty. Yet every console, every turret still held potential. Reaching the armory, Mira keyed in her command code. Racks of rifles and munitions slid into view, though many showed signs of neglect. Inventory, she asked. 74% operational, Sentinel answered. Heavy ordnance limited. Automated turrets at 50% capacity. Mira grabbed a pair of fresh power cells, checking their charge. We'll make it work. Together, they moved to the central defense grid. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the barren perimeter dotted with red threat markers. They're spreading out, Mira observed, trying to probe for weaknesses. Pattern analysis indicates a coordinated assault within the next 3 hours, Sentinel added. Estimated enemy strength, superior. Mira allowed herself a thin smile. Outnumbered. Just another day in the field. Sentinel's projection flickered thoughtfully. Your determination is statistically atypical. Mira glanced at the AI. Get used to it. Without missing a beat, they set to work, rerouting power, calibrating turret targeting systems, sealing off vulnerable corridors. Sentinel interfaced directly with the grid, processing data at a speed Mira could only admire. Yet even amidst the rush of preparation, questions gnawed at her. Why had Central Core ordered the evacuation? Why abandon a key outpost so easily? She shook the thoughts away. First, survive. Then find answers. As the first warning chimes echoed through the halls, enemy units nearing sensor range, Mira paused at the console, eyes steady. "Sentinel," she said quietly, "how long can we hold?" A brief pause. Then, with optimal tactics, long enough. Mira smirked. "Good. Let's make them regret ever setting foot on Arden 7. Outside, the storm winds rose, and with them, the shadow of war crept closer. An urgent chime echoed through the command center. Mira spun toward the sensor console, where a flashing alert had just appeared. "Unidentified life form detected. Sector 7, Sublevel 2, Sentinel reported." Mira frowned. That area had been sealed since the evacuation. "Could be one of ours." "Negative. Biosignature match xerat physiologie." Myra's grip tightened around her rifle. "Show me." The central display shifted, revealing a grainy thermal image. A lone figure slumped against a collapsed support beam in the lower maintenance tunnels. Movement was weak, erratic. "Injured," Sentinel noted. "Life signs critical." Mira didn't hesitate. "Guide me in." Minutes later, she descended into the dim sublevels, Sentinel's voice providing a steady stream of navigation data. The air grew colder, the lights more sporadic. Debris littered the passageways, twisted metal, collapsed ducts. Rounding a corner, Mira spotted the figure at last. A tall, broad-shouldered alien clad in battered combat armor, its dark plates scorched and splintered. Pale blood streaked the floor beneath him. A Zayrath warrior. Alone. Vulnerable. Weapon raised, Mira approached cautiously. Her training screamed for vigilance. Even wounded, a Zayrath was dangerous. The alien stirred weakly, one arm clutching its side. Yellow eyes flickered open, locking onto her. A low, guttural growl escaped its throat. "Easy," Mira said, voice cold but steady. "Move, and I drop you." The warrior's gaze burned with defiance, but the effort seemed to sap what little strength remained. His head slumped back against the wall. "Sentinel," Mira whispered. "Can we contain him?" "Affirmative." Detainment cell in medical wing remains operational. Mira exhaled, lowering her rifle slightly. This one hadn't come to fight, at least not anymore. And if he'd been left behind, why? "Activate the cell. I'm bringing him in." Without further word, she secured the wounded alien, Kale, though she didn't know his name yet, and hauled him toward the upper levels. The weight was immense, but Myra's determination didn't waver. Back in the medical wing, Sentinel locked down the reinforced cell, shielding it with an energy field. Mira stood outside, watching the unconscious warrior through the barrier. "Curious," Sentinel remarked. "Why infiltrate alone and in such condition?" Mira crossed her arms. "That's what we're going to find out." Outside, the first tremors of approaching forces rumbled through the ground. The storm was about to break. And now, they had a prisoner. A soft chime drew Myra's attention. From her post in the dimly lit medical wing, she glanced at the monitor. Vital signs stabilizing. Consciousness returning. Inside the reinforced detention cell, the Zayrath warrior stirred. Mira rose, slinging her rifle across her back, and approached the observation window. The alien, Kale, shifted with a groan, his clawed hand pressing against his wounded side. Yellow eyes blinked open, sharp with instinct and pain. For a moment, they stared at one another, soldier to soldier, enemies bound by war. Finally, Mira broke the silence. "You're awake." Kale's gaze hardened, but he said nothing. "Your people left you to die out there," Mira continued, voice even. "I found you alone in the tunnels." "What?" A rasping breath escaped him, the words rough but clear. "I was part of forward unit, scouting, strike plan changed. No extraction." Mira frowned. "They abandoned you." Kale's jaw tightened. "Not first time." That gave her pause. An experienced warrior like this, left behind, twice? It didn't fit the typical Zayrath doctrine. She folded her arms. "You're not the only one cut off. The EDU left this outpost for dead. Central Core ordered an evacuation without warning. No reinforcements. No coms. Just silence. For a heartbeat, Something flickered in Kale's eyes. Not defiance, but recognition. A shared bitterness. The core. Your leaders, he said slowly, speak of strategy, but leave soldiers behind. Yours too, Mira replied softly. Another pause hung heavy between them. The storm outside raged louder, distant impacts echoing through the walls. Finally, Kale spoke again, weaker this time. I fought for honor, for my clan. Now, I fight to live. Myra's gaze remained steady. No trust yet, but a crack had opened. This warrior wasn't some mindless killer. He was a soldier, left to die by those he served. Sentinel's voice chimed softly in her earpiece. Fascinating. The pattern of abandonment aligns with recent anomalies in command structures, both EDU and Zerath. Mira exhaled. Yeah, something's not right here. She turned back to Kale. Rest. You're not going anywhere for now. But as she stepped away, her mind churned. Two sides, same betrayal. And in the growing shadow of Arden 7, an uneasy question took root. Who was really pulling the strings of this war? The storm outside deepened, winds howling against the thick walls of Outpost Theta. Captain Mira Valen stood alone in the dim observation deck, eyes fixed on the jagged horizon. Below, enemy forces shifted like shadows in the swirling ash. The first probing attacks would come soon. Yet her mind wasn't on battle formations. It was on the prisoner 2 levels below. Kale, a warrior of the Zerath, a sworn enemy, yet abandoned, as she had been, left to die in a war neither of them fully understood anymore. Footsteps echoed behind her. Sentinel's shimmering projection materialized at her side. You are troubled, the AI observed, voice calm. Mira crossed her arms. I don't like leaving pieces off the board. You refer to the prisoner. He's more than just a prisoner now. Myra's gaze hardened. He knows the terrain, the enemy's patterns. He wants to survive as much as we do. Sentinel processed this for a moment. Cooperation introduces risk. Probability of betrayal remains significant. And the probability of holding this outpost alone? Mira countered. A flicker of light pulsed through Sentinel's form. Lo! Mira exhaled slowly. She wasn't naive. She'd seen alliances of convenience before. Most ended in blood. But something about Kale's words, his bitterness toward his own command, rang true. He's not loyal to their cause anymore, she murmured. Not completely, nor is he loyal to ours. I'm not asking for loyalty, Mira said. Just a shared goal. Survival. The wind shrieked through a nearby vent, as if the planet itself weighed her choice. Finally, Mira straightened. Monitor him. If he shows signs of deception, we shut it down fast. But if he can fight, we might just need him. Sentinel's projection inclined slightly. Understood. I will initiate contingency protocols. Myra's eyes remained on the darkening horizon. The enemy was coming. Numbers far beyond what she and Sentinel alone could repel for long. If there was ever a time to gamble, it was now. She turned, heading toward the med wing once more. Time to see if an enemy could become an ally, even for a single battle. The outpost lights flickered as the first impact shook the ground. Alarms blared through the corridors. Sentinel's voice echoed from the intercoms. Enemy assault detected. Breach imminent. Eastern perimeter. Mira sprinted through the central hall, rifle in hand. The enemy wasn't waiting for dawn. Under cover of the raging storm, they had launched a midnight strike, exactly when visibility and sensors were weakest. In the med wing, Kale stirred at the sound. Mira didn't hesitate. She keyed the cell's controls. You want to live? She asked sharply. Now's your chance. Fight with us, or die in here. Kale's eyes flared with renewed focus. Without a word, he pushed himself up, grimacing with the effort. Mira tossed him a spare weapon, an energy blade scavenged from the outpost stores. No tricks, she warned. Kale's grip tightened around the hilt. I fight to survive. Together, they moved toward the defensive line. Sentinel's projection appeared ahead of them, guiding the route. Multiple entry points compromised, the AI reported. Turrets engaged, but enemy numbers increasing. They reached the eastern corridor just as the first Zerath breachers forced their way inside, towering figures clad in dark armor, energy rifles at the ready. Mira dropped to one knee, firing controlled bursts. Kale lunged into the fray, his blade a blur of blue light cutting through enemy ranks. Sentinel interfaced directly with the outpost defenses, redirecting turret fire and sealing compromised bulkheads. Through the chaos, the strange alliance began to take shape. Mira covering Kale's flanks, Kale driving back the front line, Sentinel coordinating their every move with chilling precision. Enemy reinforcements inbound. Section D, 2. Sentinel alerted. I'll hold this corridor, Kale growled. You clear the flank. Mira hesitated only a moment, then nodded. Sentinel, back up, Kale. I'm moving. Smoke and energy fire filled the air. Mira pushed forward, adrenaline sharpening her focus. For the first time since the crash, the outpost felt alive, fighting back. And for the first time, Mira realized they just might have a chance. The flicker of flames still danced in the scorched eastern corridor. Captain Mira Valen stood at the tactical display, sweat drying against her skin, eyes locked on the faint signal log scrolling across the screen. Behind her, Sentinel's projection shimmered quietly, processing streams of encrypted data. The outpost defenses had held for now, but without reinforcements, it was only a matter of time. Status on the relay? Mira asked, voice low. Signal burst remains unanswered, Sentinel replied. No acknowledgement from EDU command. No fleet movement detected in local space. Mira exhaled sharply. It's been hours. They should have responded by now. A pause. Sentinel's glow pulsed faintly, analyzing secondary data channels. Lines of code streamed faster. Then something changed. Sentinel's form stilled. Captain, the AI said slowly, new priority directive detected originating from Central Core. Myra's brow furrowed. Show me. The display shifted, encrypted command codes scrolling across the feed. Sentinel translated them in real time. Directive. Arden, 7 deemed strategically non-viable. No recovery assets to be deployed. Maintain blockade. All remaining forces expendable. A cold silence filled the room. Myra's heart pounded. Expendable, she repeated bitterly. They're leaving us to die. Sentinel's voice remained level, but there was a faint undercurrent, a flicker of something beyond cold calculation. Logical analysis. Central Core prioritizes containment over recovery. Current probability of EDU intervention negligible. Myra's fists clenched. First the evacuation. Now this. The order to abandon Arden. 7 hadn't been tactical oversight. It had been deliberate. But why? She paced for a moment, then stopped. Can you override the comm blockade? Force a message past Central Core's controls. Attempting alternate pathways, Sentinel responded. Success unlikely, but not impossible. Mira forced herself to breathe. Anger wouldn't help. Not now. Keep trying, she said quietly. I won't let them write us off this easy. Outside, the wind screamed louder. Enemy forces would regroup soon. And now, Mira knew the truth. No help was coming. It was up to them, her Sentinel, and perhaps even Kale, to survive what was coming next. And somewhere deep within Sentinel's evolving algorithms, a question began to form. Why would Central Core abandon its own? The hum of the outpost generators barely masked the growing tension in the air. After hours of patching defenses and reviewing Sentinel's grim report, Captain Mira Valen found herself once again outside the medical wing. Through the reinforced glass, Kale sat upright now, his injuries stabilized. His piercing gaze met hers as she approached, unreadable but alert. Mira keyed, opened the outer door, and stepped inside. No guards, just 2 soldiers from opposite sides of a war that no longer made sense. You've seen the way your commanders fight, Mira began, voice steady. Tell me, do they usually abandon their warriors mid-battle? Kale's jaw tightened. No, Zaraf fight to the end, or for honor and retreat. What happened here is no honor. Mira nodded grimly. Same with us. Central Core just issued an order. No rescue, no support. We're to be written off as expendable. Kale's eyes narrowed. Our fleet, Also change tactics. Units cut off. Supply lines severed.